Hey guys, how's it going? Well, I promised you last week that I would give you an update on how the vaccine is. Personally, I've been okay. I've not had any symptoms at all, apart from my arm has been hurting. If I move it the wrong way, it does still hurt. It hasn't spread to my elbow yet, which is a good thing. Last time it did spread to my elbow, but the pains, it's mostly where the actual needle's been. So I think it's just a strain. And like I said, I dislocated my arm before the first vaccine. So I'm still fairly confident that it is just where the dislocation is and where the pain is. I think it's just aggravated an already very painful shoulder. But literally, I mean, earlier on I couldn't lift any higher than that. Now I can lift up to here and everything fine. Still winces a little bit if I'm pulling forward and I do that, it's absolutely fine. It's only, interestingly, if I flex my arm and go up, which is why I think it's a muscle thing, that it starts to hurt. And I think it is the muscle itself that's hurting, not the actual where the vaccine has gone through, which is why I'm always going to say it's the dislocation rather than the vaccine. Just plain old coincidence. No high temperature. Everything was reasonably fine. I had a cold recently, but it was just an everyday normal cold, which is fine. Obviously, because it's been really wet and because I went out on Saturday. Sunday, I did have a little bit of a sniffle. And when I woke up this morning, I was hot because it was boiling hot outside. So if I am having any vaccine symptoms, just like last time, they're kind of mixed up with coincident things that are happening rather than the fact that I have a vaccine injury. I personally would encourage anyone, if you can, to take the vaccine. Interestingly, I was at the charity shop today and a customer did come in and speak about the vaccine. Now, a lot of people's concern is, particularly with the recent encounters, a lot of people who have had the vaccine have got COVID. And a lot of people have said, it didn't prevent COVID, so clearly it's not useful. The vaccine was never a prevention of any form whatsoever. Think of it as a shield. It's the shield that we need to defend ourselves. Our bodies have now got, thanks to the vaccine, a minute specimen of COVID. That's how a vaccine works. And because it's got that minute specimen in it, our antibodies are already recognizing what the COVID virus looks like. So if I ever do get COVID, the most likely scenario that I am going to have, possibly, is just minor symptoms. It's very simple for if I was ever going to get measles, mumps, and rubella. I'm more likely to have the chickenpox than I am mumps or measles, simply because the vaccine already recognizes, my body already recognizes what they actually already look like. And fingers crossed, this is what the vaccine is going to do for me with COVID. If I ever, touch wood, never have COVID, my body's going to have more of a fighting chance to defeat. What it also does is it means because I'm protected, yes, I can pass COVID on to other people, but by the time I'm passing it on to someone else, it's only going to be a minor cold. Because the majority of my body would already have fought any symptoms that I've got. Maybe in 5 or 10 years' time, with people taking the vaccine, you can actually reduce it to just a simple normal cold and a flu. If I have to have multiple jabs, just like the flu jab, then that's perfectly fine with me. That's what the flu jab is for. The flu jab is to protect to protect us from the flu, but it's also to allow us to recognise if any flus have mutated throughout the years. One other thing that was mentioned to me, which I think is quite interesting, people seem to be misunderstanding how a virus works. So there was comments about, and I've had it before, comments about why would we create a vaccine in a year for this and yet not for things like HIV and cancer. First of all, cancer is not a virus. Cancer is a growth in the cells, and anyone can catch cancer. There are ways in which we can prevent getting cancer by watching what we eat, by dieting, possibly even by random exercises as well. But there are people who develop cancer other ways, and some children are even born with cancer because it's a cell growth. It's, what's the best way to describe it? It's an ingrowing of cells inside your body that becomes cancerous. It happens. That we can prevent it. And in a way, saying that there isn't a vaccine for cancer when there are other treatments for cancer, like I've never had cancer, touch wood, but like, chemotherapy. There are, and stem cell treatments. Our technology is developing every single year, and there are experimental treatments out there for people with cancer. There are experimental treatments and treatments in the NHS that allow people to cope with cancer. I've had a granddad who had cancer and he didn't survive. And I watched, and my memories of him is him deteriorating. So I know what cancer does. But I've also seen people who recover from cancer. And if a vaccine was created for them, maybe I would take it, but it's just so different with a vaccine. When it comes to HIV, there are medication for people who have HIV, and according to America, an American website, there is actually a vaccine for HIV. But the problem is that the HIV virus has multiple viruses attached to it. And in order to get rid of HIV, they would have to identify every single virus that is linked to HIV. With this virus, it's literally putting the genetics of the virus together. Imagine doing that to millions and millions and millions and millions of supposing viruses, and trying to identify each one, and B, identify the genetics to each one. It takes time. Maybe one day we will get rid of cancer and we will get rid of HIV. But the difference between this virus and those other two viruses is that we kind of already had a head start, and that was with SARS. Now, SARS has the same genetic principle as COVID. COVID you could almost describe as a kind of more advanced brother to SARS. And straight after SARS, scientists were already trying to find a way to eradicate SARS. So we basically had a high start in the race before COVID came. With the vaccine now, it will mean less hospital hospitalisation, which means that the NHS will be able to cope and other hospitals also will be able to cope. And hopefully we can get rid of this virus altogether. But the NHS can't fight alone. And that was my reason for taking the vaccine. I knew people who were struggling. Even my own mental health took a downhill throughout it. I know people who are struggling mentally and physically because the hospitals couldn't cope with the COVID emissions. Other horrible diseases and physical and mental disabilities. They didn't exactly have to take a back seat, but they did suffer because of it. Now the hospitals can focus on cancer patients and other patients as well. We do what we can. And I hope that, if anything, for our future, that we can take steps to eventually get rid of what's happening. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but we can certainly try our best. And I don't know why my voice has suddenly gone croaky. I think it's nervous, but maybe we'll look under this as just another page in a history book eventually, or it be a page in a medical student's book. But what has happened, I think, needs to be remembered. If anything, so we can learn lessons from it. Anyway, sorry to be so displeasurable. The good news is I'm totally fine. Would I recommend the vaccine? Absolutely. Any help that we can do can certainly be beneficial. Maybe I'll catch COVID, but at least my body's got more of a fighting chance against it. Anyway, I've got a couple more videos I need to do before I go to sleep tonight. So I'm gonna say, stay safe, stay well, keep the magic in your fingertips, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye for now.